My sister accused my boyfriend of assault after he rejected her, so I exposed her in front of the entire family, and she says I ruined her life. My sister tried to sleep with my boyfriend. He said no. So she told our entire family he tried to force himself on her. I believed her for 6 weeks. 6 weeks of not speaking to the man I loved. 6 weeks of watching my family treat him like a criminal. 6 weeks of my sister crying on our mother's shoulder, while I sat there thinking my whole world had cracked in half. Then I found out the truth, and when I did, I didn't just forgive Ryan and move on quietly. I made sure every single person who had judged him knew exactly what my sister was. I need to get this whole thing off my chest, so bear with me, this is long. My name's Claire. I'm 29. My sister Madison is 26. And if you'd asked me a year ago, I would have told you we were close. That was the lie I told myself for most of my life. The truth is, Madison has been competing with me since we were kids. Not the cute sibling rivalry kind. The kind where she needed to win, and if she couldn't win, she needed me to lose. When I made cheerleading squad, she told our whole grade I'd cheated on the tryout. When I got into my first choice college, she told our parents I only got in because I played the sob story card in my essay. When I got promoted at 24, she spent the entire family dinner talking about how her boss said she was underappreciated, like my promotion was somehow about her. Our parents never really saw it. Madison is good at being sweet in front of an audience and sharp when nobody's watching. I used to think I was imagining things. I used to think, she's my sister, she loves me, I'm just being paranoid. I met Ryan 2.5 years ago. He's an electrician, works with his hands, has this steady, quiet way about him that made me feel calm for the first time in years. We moved in together after a year. Everyone loved him. Well, almost everyone. Madison started joking around him early on. Little comments like, "If Claire doesn't want you, I'll take you," said with a laugh so it could never be called out. She'd sit a little too close to him at family barbecues. She'd text him directly sometimes, just to ask a favor, she'd say, needing help moving furniture or fixing her sink. I noticed. I told myself it was nothing. I told myself I was the paranoid sister again, the one who always assumed the worst about Madison. I didn't want to be that person, so I said nothing. I should have said something. It came to a head on the night of our father's 60th birthday party. We'd rented a lake house for the weekend, the whole family there, cousins, aunts, uncles, the works. It was late, past midnight, most people had gone to bed. I'd gone up early because I wasn't feeling well. Ryan stayed up finishing a beer on the dock, he said, just to enjoy the quiet. Madison found him there. I don't know exactly what she said to him that night, not the full version, not yet. What I know is that 20 minutes later, Ryan came upstairs looking pale, sat on the edge of the bed and said, "We need to leave in the morning. Something happened with Madison, and it's not going to look good, but I need you to hear it from me first." Before he could explain, I heard crying from down the hall. Madison's door. My mother's voice, soft, asking what was wrong. I went to check. Madison was sitting on her bed, mascara running, shaking. She looked up at me and said the words that changed everything. "Claire, I'm so sorry. I didn't want you to find out like this." Ryan followed me out to the dock, and he tried to kiss me. When I pushed him away, he got angry. He grabbed my arm. I had to tell him to stop. I was scared, Claire. I didn't know what he was going to do. I want you to understand something. In that moment, my body went cold. Not because I believed it instantly, but because some primal part of me, the sister part, the part that's been trained since childhood to protect Madison, kicked in before my brain could catch up. I went back to the room. I asked Ryan what happened. He told me his version, calm, direct. Madison had come out to the dock, sat close to him, put her hand on his leg, and told him that she'd always wondered, what if, that Claire never had to know. He said he stood up immediately, told her that would never happen, and started walking back toward the house. That's when she grabbed his arm and told him if he ever told me, she'd make sure I never believed him anyway. 2 completely different stories. And here's the ugly truth about that night. I didn't believe him. Not fully. I wanted to. Some part of me knew Ryan wasn't like that. But another part of me, the part shaped by 26 years of watching Madison cry and everyone rushing to comfort her, told me that if I picked Ryan's story, I was choosing him over my own sister. And I wasn't ready to be that kind of person. So I did the worst thing I could have done. I froze. I told him I needed space to think. He looked at me like I'd already made my choice. By morning, Madison had told our mother. By the afternoon, she told our father, our aunt, 2 cousins. Each retelling got a little worse. By the time we drove home, the story was that Ryan had cornered her and wouldn't let her leave until she screamed for help. None of that happened. But the story took on a life of its own, the way stories do, when everyone wants to believe the version that lets them feel protective of the person crying in front of them. I broke up with Ryan 4 days later. I told him I needed time, that I couldn't be with someone my family believed had done this, whether or not I fully believed it myself. Looking back, that sentence should embarrass me more than almost anything else in my life. I chose the version of events that kept the peace with my sister, instead of the version that kept me with the man who never gave me a single reason to doubt him in 2.5 years. The next 6 weeks were miserable. Madison played the victim beautifully. She couldn't be alone in a room with a man she didn't trust. She needed rides places. She needed to talk it through at every family dinner, needed everyone to reassure her she'd done the right thing coming forward. My mother started calling Ryan that man instead of his name. My father, who used to invite Ryan to watch football with him, stopped mentioning him at all. And I sat there every single time, watching my sister be comforted for something that hadn't happened to her, while the man I loved sat alone in an apartment, blocked from a family that used to treat him like one of their own. Here's where it started to crack. About 5 weeks in, my cousin Danielle pulled me aside at a birthday lunch. She said something that had been bothering her. She said Madison had texted her the week before the lake house trip, joking that she was going to test Ryan to see if he was really as loyal as Claire thinks. Danielle said she didn't think anything of it at the time, figured it was just Madison being Madison. A little inappropriate, nothing serious. But after everything that happened at the lake, she couldn't stop thinking about it. That sentence detonated something in my chest. Because if Madison had already told someone days before that she planned to test him, that wasn't a spontaneous moment of feeling scared on a dock. That was premeditated. I didn't say anything to Madison. I didn't say anything to my parents. I went straight to Ryan. He was hesitant to talk to me at first. Honestly, I don't blame him. I'd left him out to dry for over a month. But when I told him what Danielle said, something shifted in his face. He said, "Claire, I have something. I didn't want to use it because I didn't want to be the guy who records his girlfriend's sister to protect himself. But I think I need to show you." Turns out, about 2 weeks before the lake house trip, Madison had shown up at our apartment while I was at work, saying she needed help with her car. Ryan let her in. They talked in the kitchen. And at some point, she started saying things that made him so uncomfortable he quietly turned on the voice memo app on his phone, sitting face down on the counter, because, in his words, something about the way she was acting felt like she was building up to something. And I didn't want it to be my word against hers someday. He played me the recording. You could hear Madison's voice clear as day, telling him she'd always had a thing for him, asking what would happen if Claire never found out, getting frustrated when he shut it down, and saying, almost as a threat, "You know, if I wanted to, I could make you regret saying no to me." I sat in my car in his apartment parking lot and listened to that recording 4 times before I could move. That you could make him regret it line, from 2 weeks before the lake house, combined with what she told Danielle about testing him, meant one thing. Madison hadn't been assaulted on that dock. Madison had gone out there with a plan, been rejected exactly the way she'd been rejected in our kitchen 2 weeks earlier. And this time, instead of just being embarrassed, she'd flipped the story completely, banking on the fact that our family would believe her over him every single time. She didn't just cross a line with my boyfriend. She tried to destroy my relationship, and honestly, my whole life, because she couldn't stand that I had something she couldn't take from me by lying about a promotion or a college acceptance. This time she went nuclear. I want to be honest about what I felt in that moment. It wasn't just anger at Madison. It was this deep, sick shame at myself, for the 6 weeks I'd spent doubting Ryan, for choosing keeping the peace over believing the person who'd never lied to me in 2.5 years. I apologized to him right there in the car, and he was gracious about it in a way I probably didn't deserve yet. But he also said something I'll never forget. I need you to fix this the right way. Not just privately between us. I need your family to know the truth the way they know the lie. He was right. Madison hadn't just embarrassed me privately. She'd humiliated Ryan in front of our entire extended family, turned him into that man, cost him relationships with people who used to treat him like a brother. A quiet apology behind closed doors wasn't going to undo that, so I planned something. My mother was hosting a family dinner 2 weeks later for my grandmother's birthday. Nearly the same group of people who'd heard Madison's version at the lake house. I asked my mother if I could say a few words during the toasts, framed it as wanting to talk about how the last 2 months had really affected me. She said, "Of course, sweetheart. We all just want you to heal." Madison had no idea what was coming. I stood up after dessert in front of my parents, my aunt and uncle, my grandmother, my cousins Danielle and Marcus, and I told them the truth. All of it. I told them about the recording from 2 weeks before the lake house. I played the audio, full volume, right there at the table. I watched my mother's face go white. I watched my father set down his fork and just stare at Madison. I told them what Madison said to Danielle before the trip about wanting to test Ryan. Danielle, to her credit, backed it up in front of everyone instead of staying quiet, which took real guts. Madison tried to interrupt twice, tried to say I was twisting things, tried to cry the way she'd cried on that bed at the lake house. But this time, nobody rushed to comfort her. This time, everyone had just heard her own voice, on tape, saying she could make him regret turning her down. My father asked her flatly, in front of everyone, if the recording was real. Madison didn't answer. That silence said more than any word could have. By the end of that night, my mother was in tears, not for Madison, but from the realization of how easily she'd turned on Ryan without ever once questioning the story. My aunt quietly told Madison she thought she should leave. My grandmother, 81 years old, looked at Madison and said one sentence I'll remember for the rest of my life. "I raised your mother better than this. And I expected better from you." Madison left that dinner alone. Nobody offered her a ride. Here's the update, 3 months later, because you know these things never really end clean. Madison lost more than that one dinner. Word got around the extended family fast. Cousins talk, and cousins talk to their friends, and Madison's social circle overlapped heavily with our family's. She lost her position as a bridesmaid in Danielle's wedding, quietly uninvited. She stopped showing up to family events altogether, not because she was banned, technically, but because nobody made space for her the way they used to. My parents still speak to her, she's still their daughter, but my mother told me last month that things are different now, guarded, the way you talk to someone you love but no longer fully trust. Madison tried once to reach out to me directly. A long message about how I'd destroyed her reputation over one bad night, and how sisters aren't supposed to do that to each other. I didn't reply for 3 days. When I finally did, I said one thing. "You spent 6 weeks letting our whole family destroy the reputation of a man who never did anything wrong, and you planned it 2 weeks in advance. I just made sure the people who judged him unfairly knew the truth. That's not destroying you, that's you finally being seen." She hasn't messaged since. Ryan and I got back together about a month after that dinner. It wasn't instant. He needed time to trust that I'd actually choose him next time, and honestly, I needed time to forgive myself for the 6 weeks I didn't. We're doing better than we ever were, actually. I think going through something that ugly and coming out the other side honest with each other did something for us that 2 easy years hadn't. My father actually called Ryan last week and asked him to come to the game on Sunday, like old times. Ryan said yes. I still think about how close I came to losing him over a lie my sister told, because she couldn't stand watching me be happy. And I think about every family member who believed her instantly, no questions asked, because that's just how it's always been with Madison. The golden child gets the benefit of the doubt. Every single time, until the one time the tape doesn't lie. I don't regret what I did at that dinner. I know some people would say I should have handled it privately, quietly, kept the family peace. But peace built on a lie isn't peace. It's just silence waiting for someone to finally say the truth out loud. Madison wanted a version of my life. She just never expected the truth to be the thing that finally cost her all of it.